Hello and welcome. I am so excited that you are joining us for this discussion on gratitude. And I am really excited because I have not only a communication specialist, a coaching professional, a renowned speaker, but my personal friend, somebody that I love, I adore, and I have seen firsthand how she lives these principles of gratitude in her everyday life. So let me introduce you to my beautiful friend, Heathere Evans.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have any conversation with you, my friend.
Well, let's hope everyone feels that way when we finish, okay? One of the things that I love so much about Heathere is she does have a very impressive resume, and all that material is going to be in her bio, and the materials on how to connect with her and the topic we're going to speak about today, that'll be in the description. But what I love about Heathere is that she is a real person. She's a mom. She's been divorced. She's got beautiful kids that go through all the growing pains that all of our kids go through. She has a parent. She's got siblings. She's got all of the life challenges that we all face. She's had cancer. She's faced life. She's real. And through it all, she's been able to thread this needle of gratitude. So Heathere, first of all, I have a little theory that came to me, and I'm just curious how this lands for you as we're talking about gratitude. We're obviously on the spiritual path together. And for you all, that's how Heathere and I met, actually, is through spiritual masterminds with our beautiful friend that we love so much, Robert Holden. But it has occurred to me that people come to gratitude in a couple ways. One way feels like to me is they are pulled. They're on the spiritual path, and it's like spirit is pulling them into this beautiful practice of gratitude. And then I think sometimes we're pushed. And by that, I mean, we've come across these life challenges. Somebody we love is dying or very sick. There's been a financial crisis. We've lost our jobs. And it's like, holy, I've tried everything else. Let me try this gratitude thing. Oprah says it's cool. So I think we're either pulled or pushed often. And I'm just wondering, what do you think about that? And how did you first come across gratitude?
Oh, that's a good question. I love this place where you've landed around how we're pushed and pulled. Reminds me that we're just all in motion. We're just all in motion. It's a dynamic process, this living thing. It's not static, it's changing with every single moment and all the experiences that we have. And it is so true in my experience, that's consistent with that. There's a push and a pull. And gosh, when did I come across gratitude? I'd have to say my mom was a very grateful person. And she had a lot of challenges. My parents were divorced when I was 10. There were a lot of challenges in that marriage, and as she moved through her process of just everything that comes with divorce and being a single mom and being on your own with 3 young kids, all under the age of 10. I was 10, 5, and 6 months old, actually, were her 3 kids. So, she kept circling back to gratitude. And my experience with that as I watched her, and certainly what I've felt and practiced in my own life, is that to be your strongest self, to find the strength to bootstrap yourself out of really hard situations, you have to be willing to develop a grateful heart.
It's so counterintuitive in a certain way, isn't it? It's certainly not what I think our typical initial go-to is. My mom was actually very grateful as well. We didn't go through a divorce. I didn't go through a divorce as a child. One of the things that I remember about gratitude that she taught was, and with all due respect to where she was, right, and where we all were at the time, was you need to be grateful in order to get more. Now, from a spiritual perspective, we understand that gratitude opens the door to more. But do you know, in my family, oh yeah, I just thought about this. In my family, now this was 40 years ago, one person in the family did not write a thank you note to someone else in the family, and they were literally like taken out of a will because of it.
Oh, wow.
Like, I'm not even kidding you.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
intense.
So it wasn't even gratitude. It was like, you better be grateful, like, or you're going to get cut out of the will. Or it's just interesting how we come up, how we experience gratitude in a different way.
It's a really good point. When you said that, it made me think of some of, you know, the people I've come across in my family, and my ex-in-laws, and, you know, where it's like gratitude is expected. And if you don't give it, then there's a punishment, a judgment, right? You're not a grateful person. I didn't get the thank you note, just like what you were saying. Yeah, that's true. And therefore it feels almost like being bullied into gratitude. That's not the way to light up your heart. So it's never gonna, it's only gonna contribute to a weakness, right? I'll do it, but I'm doing it to check this box. So you'll care about me. You'll love me. You'll think I'm a good person.
Oh, isn't that interesting? You'll think I'm a good person. It's that constriction, right? That ego constriction,
totally,
versus this expanded of, I am so grateful. I am so, appreciative, which feels amazing. Talk about your heart opening. There's just no other, there's nothing better than that when you have that really heartfelt, that's what we call it, heartfelt gratitude.
Totally.
So interesting.
It is interesting. And in order for us to get the health benefits of gratitude, it needs to be real. It needs to be authentic, right? Because if we want the well-being, all the chemicals that come with aligning your brain with your heart, which is what gratitude does for us.
That's right.
It needs to be real. It can't be something that you're made to do. And it's so funny, as we're talking about it, I'm reflecting on, as a good parent, I remember so many times it's Christmas, it's birthday for my kids, and I'm saying, make sure we got to get our thank you cards done, get the thank, it was like this huge thing. And their birthdays are November and January. So it's like the sandwich is Christmas. So it's like the endless flow of thank you cards. Was I coming? I think that's been a journey for me. Initially, when I had them do it, when I sent my own thank you cards, I think it was coming from, this is what a good person does. This is what a good mom teaches her kids to do. And not quite as heart opening. I think my journey with gratitude has been more and more and more heart opening.
Isn't that beautiful? And I totally get that. You want to teach your children etiquette. You want them to be grateful. And perhaps, and since you mentioned that, I'm wondering, myself, when was I teaching gratitude as a heart practice? And when was I teaching it as a task?
Yes, that's the shift.
Yeah. When is it a task? When is it a heartfelt? And I know in recent years, even the whole gift thing has shifted. My kids are not little anymore. They're all adults. And one of the things that we decided to do as a family for us is, for holidays, birthdays, what I love is an experience. Like, let's go up in the mountains for a day. Let's go out to lunch. Let's go see a play. For me, those are such heart-opening things. Now, I've got a little 4-year-old grandson. When he draws a little picture for Gigi, it gets me. Okay, I am very appreciative.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's because I feel the love behind it.
Yes.
That's the thing, I think, is, where is the love? You can receive, Robert taught me this actually, you can receive a loving intention and even release the gift if it's the wrong size or if it would better serve someone else. But as long as if you can feel the love behind it, that you can always be grateful for that.
Absolutely. You know, and I'd have to say there's I didn't develop that until there was something, or many things, really hard,
Yeah.
right? Like really hard things whereby I realized if I'm not strong enough, this will take me down. So how do I get to strength? I just start to appreciate the little things I have going, the little things that I'm accomplishing, the little movements forward. And that appreciation was the beginning, like the little bud of what it is to be grateful, even in the midst of chaos.
So now that just brought something up for me. My one of my really good friends, we knew each other literally from 5 years old in kindergarten. And the year we were 30, she had a very, very severe case of leukemia. She was supposed to maybe last 3 weeks. She made it through that, and she actually had another child, and she lived another 18 years. But one of the things that she told me, she had been very typical of my friends at the time, right? We get married to the right guy, we get the right house, what couch are we going to get, all that stuff.
Right.
And she just could understand the appreciation. She told me she broke out into just sobbing tears because she saw her 2-year-old on a little Ferris wheel. And it just struck her after the cancer. It's like, I almost missed this. I almost wasn't here for this. Now, you know what that's like to be so focused on the present. It's really about being grateful for the present moment, isn't it?
Totally. I don't think we actually can be truly grateful, or at least experience the full gift of that, unless we're present. Even if I'm reflecting on the past, things I've been grateful for,
right?
It's because I'm bringing it into this moment to appreciate. So you're totally right. There's a deep connection between, I like what we're talking about here. This is so cool. How to shift from the task of gratitude to the experience of it.
That heart opening.
Absolutely.
Which is where the chemical, right, the biological effects come in as well.
All of that. And how to bring gratitude, like the key to it is presence, being super in the now of what I'm appreciating, acknowledging. And that's so interesting. I hadn't really thought about that, but it's so true. Yeah, you got to be present.
You got to be present. And what you just described, I can be grateful for this little moment. Well, that's absolute presence. What is so interesting to me is something that you brought up actually in your new course, Gratitude for Jerks. And we'll talk about that in a little while. I've been going through it. And it's this idea of communication. And so often, well, at least for me, I'll just say for me, so often the times I have not been grateful or properly grateful, or my mom said I should have been more grateful, whatever it was, it really wasn't about the incident, the event, the person. It was all about the story I told myself about the person, the event, the incident.
Right.
So even being present to the truth, not my truth, not the story I made up in my head, but for me, asking a higher power to say, show me the truth of this. And even that for me has just pulled back the veil in such a way that I saw things I never saw, and ended up being really grateful for horrible experiences, or what I thought was a horrible experience.
Isn't that remarkable? I mean, I get the question of a lot. How is gratitude possible? And it's a good question when things are really hard, when we are in the place of how is gratitude for a jerk possible, let's say, and it really does. It's a spiritual path to come to that.
Yeah.
It's a total transformation of your perception. It's a shifting of identity. And it's a releasing of guilt. So I think what you were saying earlier about when gratitude is a task, it's because it's attached to guilt. And I hadn't
ego.
Right? And ego, of course, right? I should do this so I will be loved.
Right.
That is the task of gratitude. And it is definitely a totally different experience. And it would be attached to guilt. But when you're in the place of how do I get grateful for someone who's really challenging, a difficult person in my life, it's a journey. It's not just an immediate thing. It's a practice. And that's why I put together the course that I did. It's an 8-step, I've broken it into 8 steps of how I came to gratitude for difficult people and the biggest challenges. But it really does take the willingness, the humility, and the courage to let go of your right, wrong position, and to really be willing to let go of judgment, to let go of your perceptions and your beliefs, and see that any perception you have is narrow and limited. It's not the whole story. That's a lot of willingness, to own your pattern, even in a relationship that's challenging. It takes a lot. So it's also surprisingly liberating. So, right?
Absolutely. There's such
Yeah.
a freedom from getting out of your own way.
Totally.
And that, you said a word that really resonates with me. It takes courage to say, he's a jerk. He did this, she did that. I'm right. It takes courage to say, show me how to see this differently.
Totally.
And it doesn't mean that you are validating horrific behavior, doesn't mean anything like that. It takes courage, spiritual courage. It just takes amount of bravery to say, show me how to see this differently.
Yeah, it really does. And I love that in your Be Loved principles. I think it's a requirement. It's a requirement to be able to grow and step into your own strength and higher levels of real empowerment. You got to be able to do just that.
And what a great example you just said. I'm just reminded of an example my friend Sister Jenna talks about. She talks about going to New York City, going to the Empire State Building, and how different it is. You're on the ground floor. Everything you see, you think, okay, this is New York. This is cool. You
right?
Get up 10 floors. Oh, so this is what New York looks like.
Yeah.
And then when you're at the top, you're still in the same place, you're in the same building, but your perspective has shifted just because you are physically in a different place. Mentally, we can be in a different place.
Totally.
And
oh my goodness, you nailed it. You nailed it. And
isn't that amazing?
Totally different. Yeah.
The view is totally different. Even that was going up, but it even occurred to me. You ever sit in a circle with your kids or your family? You're sitting around a table. Maybe it's Thanksgiving. You're sitting around a big table. Maybe there's 8 or 10 top. Somebody gets up and you move your position because you want to go talk to your sister. Even moving your spot around the table shifts your perspective. You see things you didn't see literally 5 minutes before. You were sitting next to the mashed potatoes. Now you're next to the pumpkin pie. It's
right?
just
it's
different.
So true. Yeah. And what you hear and what you see and what that conversation looks and feels like, you're absolutely right. And that's, I think, as far as challenging people and how to work in that particular situation, the perception shift that I've found is essential to start that journey is just the willingness to almost redefine difficult person, like redefine jerk. So like a jerk is, and I go through this in my course, but the definition of a jerk, let's look at that. It's a person who is unskilled, unaware, or otherwise ignorant to a better way for now. But we're all on this journey of growth. So every day we're brand new.
Absolutely.
The other part of that definition, there's kind of 2 parts. That's one, the willingness to just perceive challenging people through that lens. And the other is that really jerk, let's say, behavior, whether we're being the jerk, and that happens, especially in the inner critic world, like in the inner conversation, but inside or outside, wherever jerk behavior is happening, it is a state of human behavior. And it's what's really going on is it's when a person's personal history, their wounds, their upbringing, their family of origin, whatever happened, there are negative character traits that until and unless those issues get resolved, they result in specific kinds of ways of showing up in conversation and in offices and in communities and in families. You know, there are reasons. We all make sense.
Yeah.
So if we really had the lens of what was happening in someone's consciousness that resulted in the way that they're being, their, you know, bullying behavior, their unkindness, their toxicity, their self-centeredness, all of those things are linked to something that's unhealed.
I love that. I also love that once you have the awareness of a pattern you see in someone else or in yourself. And to me, one of the funniest things, because I'm going through your course, and one of the funniest things, you guys all have to get this course because this is like the best. She has these beautiful videos. And in this one, it's, are you willing to consider you might be the jerk? And I thought, well, yes, I have been the jerk. And I might have even been the jerk on this in the phone conversation I had just this morning.
Right.
Because we don't ever want to put the mirror here.
It's so true. And of course, that came from my own awareness of like, uh-oh. Let me look at this. Let me own my part. Let me really be willing to be that courageous, that honest. Oh, I'm kind of being the jerk here. What if that's possible? Yeah.
And even if the idea is you may not think you're a jerk, but even understanding someone else thinks you are.
Right.
I mean, that's an awareness as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you have in my teachings, lots of my clients and students have heard me say everything is happening for our highest and best. That doesn't mean I can immediately be grateful for everything. However, I have found that when I stay in the present and I can look back, I can see how perfect everything was. Not that my personal belief is that it's not like we're necessarily fated for different things. I just think we have a multitude of choices. And every time we make a choice, it triggers a response in the universe, right? Mm-hmm. Not only in our universe, but in the universe. And I mean, how can you not be grateful just for that?
I know, right? I mean, just the
idea just for that.
Yes. Yeah. The practice of gratitude really does, the more you do it, the more you see how much there is to be grateful for. I think when I really started to do the work of, you know, how can I be grateful for some of these people that are really annoying me, really bothering me? You know,
consistently.
Consistently. Yeah. It's like, how can I get to that place? And the more that I looked at that, the more I realized, oh, wow, there literally, if life is happening for me, not to me, if it really is all so that I can see where I'm triggered and then look at what I need to heal, then how can any other possible response make any sense except thank you, thank you, thank you.
This is exactly why I wanted to have this conversation specifically with you today, because we've been in these mastermind groups together. It has been so evident to me and such a joy to watch you unfold on the spiritual path and to see what part gratitude's played in it. And it has been and continues to be just a beautiful, powerful, insightful practice. I think sometimes, and I'm interested in your opinion on this, I think sometimes, at least in the United States, we associate gratitude with that thing you got to do around the Thanksgiving table before you get your turkey. Yes. Right? Okay, I got 3 people before me and I got to remember what am I grateful for, and then I can eat. And so I think there's like a surface understanding of gratitude, and anything opens the door. Don't get me wrong, anything opens the door. But when we are able to incorporate, this as not even a daily practice, or when it evolves from a daily practice into a way of being, what miracles unfold then?
Right. I think the reason is because even as you were saying it, I was thinking when I see gratitude as a way of being,
Yeah.
suddenly I'm like everything brings me joy.
Yep. And that's it.
Right?
Joy and peace. That's what we're here for.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It affects, I mean, I feel it immediately right in my heart, a way of being.
Yeah.
Immediately. And then that, of course, all the neural pathways open up, all the, healthy chemicals flood our system. And suddenly it's like, you know what? I really do have a good life. I'm surrounded by people who really love me, and they're doing their best to do that in the ways that they know how, given their own journeys. It's a cool way to be. I was just reading something recently about how, you can when you practice gratitude, you can start to see, I'm grateful for every blade of grass, right?
Every
It's like
blade of
suddenly
grass, every leaf.
all of creation becomes this gift to you and to everyone. It's transformational for sure.
And it really does open the door to the divine in an entirely different way. I think we're taught often to be grateful for things, and I'm very grateful for things. What gratitude does also is, I found it opens the heart of compassion. So even if someone is acting in a way that I would have identified as being a jerk, and I don't care if it's an individual, if it's a political party, if it's an event or whatever it is, I've noticed that there's just so much more compassion for exactly what you said, what they're bringing to that place, and that they're doing the best with what they have in the now that they're living in.
Yeah, and I think it's important for us not to ever get to a place where we deny how we feel. Like gratitude doesn't mean I like this, what's happening. Some things are really hard and really tough. I remember experiencing that in, cancer treatment, right? So, I went through some pretty intense things. And, for someone to say at that moment, we'll just be grateful you're alive, was just like, you know what? I'm in pain. I'm suffering. I don't even want to hear that, right? Yes, of course. And I want to be acknowledged for what I'm experiencing right now. So I think the one of the cool things about gratitude and the journey that it is that it really slows us down to be able to appreciate the full spectrum of being human and what that really looks like. And part of that is some things I'm not going to like it. And especially when it comes to other people, when we're triggered, like I don't like that someone is being toxic or negative or, rude or selfish or whatever is occurring. I don't have to like it to be grateful. I can acknowledge that in consciousness, two conditions exist. One, I'm not liking this. And then the second is, what can I do to support myself and others in this situation? How can I see this as the possibility of a learning opportunity for me to step to a higher level of courage, of compassion, of kindness, of helping someone, of service, of whatever that situation is calling for from me. And it could even just be neutrality. Someone's coming in really negative, and this is an invitation. If I want to, I can use it as a practice to stay in a place of neutrality, to not allow someone else's. Yeah.
That's an important point, and I appreciate you bringing it up. I thank you for that, because you do always have a choice. You don't have to grit your teeth and go, I'm really grateful that this terrible thing has happened, or my child was abused, or I lost it. You don't have to be grateful for that. And I do really appreciate you bringing up the point that you don't want to deny how you're feeling, because that's just denial.
Yes.
That's just
right?
denial.
Then we're just shoving it down.
We're just shoving it down.
Spiritual bypass happens, all these other things where we're not really owning for a moment the experience of just being human. Yeah.
Would you, I'm curious about this. When I'm thinking about things in my own life, there were many, many situations where I was caught up in the humanness of the moment. And it was years, sometimes decades later, that I could look back and see the perfection, even in what seemed horrific.
Yes.
In how my journey unfolded. That I can always be grateful for. Not the suffering of someone else, certainly not.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a journey, gratitude. I think it's a path to spiritual growth, to personal growth. I think many times we can see it once we're through and there's this beautiful quote that Carolyn Mace has. I love her work. She says, she's relating it to forgiveness, but it relates to gratitude as well. She says that forgiveness takes place in the inner landscape where your disappointment, hurt, abused, angry ego confronts your soul, which holds a cosmic template of justice. So I think that when we're in it, we're not able to have the perception of the whole. And you said it beautifully, right? That whole, it's like I can look on a reflection and see, but we just need to own our perception isn't all of that. I don't have all of time and eternity to look and see that actually everything is unfolding in such perfection. But I can, if I'm willing, develop the strength of heart that it takes to trust that that's actually totally what's happening, and that there is an author of reality that's running all of this.
Yes. Yeah. A supreme divine intelligence.
Yes.
As you have been walking this path of gratitude, while you've been a mom and while you were getting a divorce and while you had cancer and while you're running a business and on your own path, what surprised you about gratitude?
What surprised me about gratitude? I love that question. I think what surprised me about it is that there really are gifts in the garbage.
Yeah, there are.
Like
and sometimes they stink.
This is a total pile, right? This is a total pile. However, again, like if I really look back, if I'm really willing to unpack something, there are gifts in it. And that was shocking. That was surprising. And it's been a beautiful new way to appreciate life, that I've been able to have some of those huge challenges and in the moment not see it at all, but certainly be able to find it later and say, oh, right. I think the biggest example of that I can only say now, and I'm 9 years past my cancer diagnosis, it was that the day that my doctor called to tell me that I had breast cancer was Valentine's Day. So in that moment, I was like, this is the most horrendous. What kind of jerk calls someone on Valentine's Day when you could just wait like 12 hours isn't going to change any of this, right? And now I see that it's actually so beautiful, because to me, it was a call for love. It was a call from love for myself. Wow. A whole new orientation of what self-love, self-acceptance, and self-forgiveness really means. So
what a gift.
And that was so surprising.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So I've known you for many years now. I know that you work with corporations and executives. You do beautiful work in leadership. You are my go-to girl for communications. You could have created a course on any number of things. Why gratitude?
I think because it's the most fun, interesting, compelling thing for me, it was just a great joy to recognize at the moments when I felt like I really got like a sock to the ovaries.
Ouch.
Like someone just
Ouch.
kicked me in the ovaries and I have no idea how to get up and survive this. And lo and behold, given the time and the willingness, the humility and the intention, I was able to come to actual gratitude for that, because I could see that, man, that taught me how to be stronger than I ever thought possible. It really helped develop for me what I call leadership qualities. There are soul qualities, that's what they are. But it's generosity, and I mean, gratitude is certainly one of them. It is unconditional positive regard, which is love, for others. It is deep looking at how can I care for myself, because that hurt, that really hurt. And what the journey is to move through that process so that you can actually have the moment where you can look back and go, wow, I would never want to do that again. That was awful. And wow, I wouldn't be who I am without it. And I love myself.
The power of the and.
Right? It's
the
huge.
power of the and.
Huge. Yeah.
So I hope you all can see why it was Miss Heather I wanted to help unpack this idea of gratitude today. You can see her passion. I really love the way I have personally witnessed her gratitude journey. I love the way gratitude has worked in my own life when I've been able to truly see through the eyes of love instead of my eyes of ego, and been able to see the gifts in the garbage. Now, like, I just suddenly want to go to the dump for some reason and just see what might be there. I don't know, I just have a urge. But I really appreciate, Heather, you coming and speaking to us today. Tell everyone how they can get to your website. And I'll tell you guys right now, you need to sign up for her newsletter. And if you really want to give yourself a treat, this is, I don't know if it's going to be backwards for you, but this is her gratitude course with her little, one of my favorite pictures of her. And I have found, now I've studied gratitude for years, probably at least 25 years. And I am going through every module going, oh, wow, that's cool. That's a tweak. That's a perspective. That's a facet of this beautiful diamond of gratitude that I hadn't seen in quite the same way. So how can people get in touch with you?
Oh, I'm just honored and humbled and so glad that there are pearls in there for you, sweet friend. Your listeners can contact me on my website, pivotincorporated.com. So that's PIVOT as in the shift. So to pivot is what my business is really all about. So pivotincorporated.com, sign up for my newsletter, and also follow me on Instagram. My handle there is @coaching.evolved.
And news about the class will be on your website.
It is, yes.
And we'll have all of that in our description below. Sweet friend, I am so grateful you've been here today. I love you. I am so grateful for you being here. And I'm grateful for every single one of you that has tuned in to learn a little something different about gratitude. I appreciate you. I love you. And I'll see you next time.